All right, thank you everybody for coming to the webinar for this month. Today we're going to be going over our casework side of things with VA and DoD casework, how we can work with Department of Veterans Affairs and DoD to be helping our constituents and veterans within New York 24. So I am Michael Stadelmeyer. I am the district director for Congresswoman Tenney, but I also have Jason Phelps, who runs our constituent services program here in the office. He is our constituent services director. So just a little bit of housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded and it will be posted to the Congresswoman's official website later on, so that if anybody has missed it or anybody wants to go back on some of the information, you can go back and see that. Also, if anybody has any questions, we do have the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to input any questions if you have. We'll get to that after the presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the PowerPoint, and Jason, I will hand it off to you and just let me know when to change slides.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Like Michael said, I'm Jason Phelps. I work for Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, do constructor constituent services. Primarily do a lot of the veterans and defense casework, although our other offices are some of those caseworkers are starting to do a little bit here and there just to get some familiarity with everyone on those issues. I just want to thank Michael for all his hard work in sending these up every month. I know he does a lot of work behind the scenes, and thank our casework staff. We've had some staff people that have worked for Claudia in the past and other members of Congress, and they've been great. And we have some new people new to casework that bring a good perspective to Congress with us, and they've been really working hard and trying to serve constituents. And that starts with Congresswoman Tenney. She has always been very strongly dedicated to constituent services and also veterans, and not just because her son Trey is a Marine. He's in the reserves now and finished his active duty time, but she always has been supportive of veterans and defense and active duty, Guard and Reserve military. So this is important to her, and the reason we can do a job to help those in the community and our district is for her reputation and the hard work she does. So we appreciate the opportunity to help our constituents and all the work she does. So, Michael, I think we're ready for the first slide. Okay, so we're just doing a quick overview of the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Defense, some common problems that might come up. This is not going to cover everything. Each day we get something new or something that is a wrinkle we haven't heard of before, which we are fortunate to have some good agency partners that can kind of help us get through some of that, and also how we can help. So I think we're ready for the next. So the Veterans Department, hold on one second. Department of Veterans Affairs has about 400,000 employees. It's one of the larger agencies that we have for the federal government. Usually it's split into three different areas. So Veterans Health Administration and then Veterans Benefits Administration. That's what generally veterans and their families are going to be dealing with most of the time. And there's also the Veterans Cemetery Administration. So the Veterans Health Administration, that covers the medical centers and the clinics in and around our district. We, in this district, since it's so large, the VA medical centers in Buffalo, Syracuse, and the Finger Lakes, which covers, Canandaigua and Bath. They cover our area, and there's clinics associated with them. And then the next part would be the Veterans Benefits Administration. They do claims and appeals for service-connected disability benefits, education benefits like the GI Bill, vocational rehab, and also life insurance. They also do non-service connected pensions, which usually are based on income. It's generally if a veteran is not service connected but are under a certain income, they can get a pension through the VA. And also there's the Veterans Cemetery Administration. That one we don't touch very often, just because generally it's a fairly foolproof system and a very compassionate system where funeral directors would reach out directly to the VA. But there are some issues where we can help families with. The National Cemetery Administration works on American flags for veterans who have passed away, their headstones and markers, and for plaques for their grave. And they also run all the national cemeteries. There's one out in the Buffalo area, one in Bath. There's a few in New York State. The only cemetery they don't govern is Arlington National Cemetery. That's done by the Army. Next slide, please, Michael. So common case requests we get with the VA, many of them focus on the Veterans Benefits Administration. There's been a lot of changes in legislation in the past few years, specifically related to Agent Orange exposure. Each year, there's presumptive conditions which show if you were in Vietnam, boots on the ground during that time, and have a certain medical condition, they pretty much more than not would approve you for service connected benefits. There's a lot of areas where there could be some hiccups with that, but also Blue Water Navy, which was something that was worked on for many years for those stationed on a ship off the coast of Vietnam. And most recently, there's been some Camp Lejeune water exposure and PACT Act, which addresses medical conditions related to burn pits. So that's the good side of that has been the VA has opened it up. So more veterans that have conditions can seek assistance through the VA for those conditions. And the flip side of that, since there's more veterans filing claims, that has caused some delays for the claims and appeals. You've probably seen on television or getting spam ads or things a lot related to Camp Lejeune. There are claims you can do through the VA for Camp Lejeune, but those are considered, there was some legislation passed a few years ago specifically about legal settlements for that. That's something that we cannot get into. It's separate from the federal government. House ethics regulations prevent the congresswoman or staff from interfering with any legal issues or providing legal counsel. The only advice we can get is, if you are going to pursue something legally, is to maybe start with a local attorney, or make sure any attorney you go through, you vet through our association, or just make sure, maybe check with Mountain Better Business Bureau, just to make sure you're being protected. On the medical side, we get several inquiries a month on issues with an appointment, prescriptions, scheduling a surgery, an issue with the facility, say parking or construction is causing a delay to get in, or something that may be a difference of opinion with staff or your primary care physician. We have very good relations with the VA medical centers in our district that serve our district, and understand that there's going to be some issues from time to time. We're fortunate in this part of the country that some of the issues we have with medical centers are usually fairly minor and can be taken care of pretty quickly, but certainly understand no one's perfect, and we're always there to help to try to see if we can work out something between the VA and the veteran. And we also can help families with a delayed marking or monument, or a loved one of someone that passes away for that. So next slide, if you'd like to. So how can we help? Well, initially, if a veteran or family member needs assistance for any case or agency, we would need a privacy release form. The Privacy Act of 1974 requires that, just to make sure the veteran or family it gives permission to the office to reach out to the VA or another agency on their behalf. The one thing that the VA does not recognize is a power of attorney, and that can be an issue for some of our older veterans, especially if they're in a assisted living or may have a condition such as Alzheimer's or dementia. What we do ask in that situation is if the family can certainly fill out the release form on the veteran's behalf. If the veteran can sign as best they can, that'd be helpful to us. And if the veteran is unfortunately deceased and the family needs to do something with the VA, then the immediate next of kin, such as the spouse or oldest child, can sign for that. So next slide, please, Michael. One thing to note is, unfortunately, our office and congressional offices are not certified by the VA to file claims and appeals. This is usually reserved for veteran service organizations where they have membership that goes through certification. I don't know if it's yearly, but it's every few years. They have to be certified by the VA to be able to file claims and appeals. We work really closely with veteran service organizations in our district. Usually most of those are located at each county with the county veteran service agencies, and they affiliate with one of the larger VSOs, as they call them, like the American Legion of Vietnam Veterans, and that's where they get their certification through. Also, New York State Division of Veterans Affairs has certified veterans counselors. So if you're just starting out with the claim, or you've had a claim and it was denied and you have to file an appeal, the first step should be to contact one of these offices so they can, one of their certified counselors can file a claim or appeal for you, or any other form of paperwork. But once an action has been filed with the VA, you can certainly contact our office. We'll get you a release form and then we can try to advocate for that claim or appeal, ask for it to be expedited, and it'll be flagged as congressional interest, which can help with that. But we would, again, we don't get contacted too much for the VA when it comes to maybe serious issues. Most of it are delays with appeals or claims, and then some issues with medical centers, but fortunately not issues like you saw out in the western part of the country a few years ago, like in Phoenix and that sort of thing. We've been very fortunate that to deal with issues of that caliber around here. So I think we're ready for the next slide, Mike. So separate from the Veterans Administration that we can help with, we can also help with those for Department of Defense casework. So veterans, those in active duty, Guard, Reserve, and their families, they have many issues that they can come to us that can be addressed, and we'll go over a few of those that we typically get. Next slide, please. So one of the first things we usually get is either someone who wants to get in or someone who wants to get out into the military. Usually it's someone who wants to get in mostly. Thankfully, we don't have a lot of people that are trying to get out in the military, or there could be an issue where they have a medical issue and have to leave the military, and they're just trying to get everything in order before they go out. There can be some things that might prevent or cause a need for a waiver to get enlisted in the military, and with a release form we can reach out to the Pentagon and find out what steps can be taken for a waiver process. We've had some good success with that, or at least they give us some indication as to what they need to do, maybe additional medical information. In some cases, based on the condition, they have to wait a couple of years to get back in if there's been no reoccurrence of the condition. So we try to get the most up-to-date information, and that does fluctuate depending on the need for those service people. One of the most common requests we do get is people asking for a DD-214 or a military discharge or separation from their active duty or Guard service. That's used for VA home loans, for when someone passes away. That's needed also for official, like for school documents, for education documents. It's something that's needed a lot, and sometimes those get misplaced over the years or destroyed or need a clear copy. We can reach out to the National Personnel Records Center, which is in St. Louis, which is where most of those records are housed, or most recently in the last 15 to 20 years, those records are with the actual branch for discharge. Sometimes for older veterans, if there's an emergency, some veterans, when they came home from the service, registered a copy of their discharge with the local county clerk. So that's also an option for if you need a discharge and can't find it and think that a family member may have registered with the county. That's a good place to check, and we have good relations with most of the clerks, all the clerks' offices rather in our districts. Also, there's also a need for military personnel medical records. The Record Center generally has those copies, and I'll go more into that later. Sometimes they don't. Most of the medical records are with the VA, and we can contact the VA Records Management Center. And then there's, if you go to the National Archives page for the National Personnel Records Center, you can kind of determine based on when you were a veteran in your family was discharged, where those records might be. The one caveat with the National Personnel Records Center is, I know if you're a veteran or family member of a veteran, or may have heard about a fire that was at the National Personnel Records Center in 1973. Actually, the 50th anniversary of that was just a couple weeks ago. That was a devastating fire for their former facility in St. Louis, where Army, Air Corps, and Air Force records, a good majority of those were destroyed in the fire. And then during the fire fighting process with pouring hundreds of gallons of water on those records, that also caused some damage. So that is always an issue that we run into. Some of those records are lost forever. Some they can find alternate record sources to try to track down some information. If they can confirm the date of entry, date of discharge, and character of discharge, they can release a National Archives form that's called a certificate of service, which can be used just as for official purposes, just like a DD-214 or discharge. That does help in some cases, but that fire is still, it's 50 years ago, and it's still, I think once a week or once every couple of weeks, we're dealing with something that's someone that's been impacted by that fire. And it's very devastating. The people down there are trying their best to try to work on finding other record sources, which has helped over the years. But now all those records when a service person gets out, those are digitized, so there should not be an issue for that. So it's on the cloud, as they say, securely, so not stored in a file. But next slide, please. We also get a lot of requests for medals and awards for veterans or family members of a veteran may have passed away. Typically, the federal government will do one set of replacement medals at no cost to the veteran or the family. If the veteran's deceased, the immediate next of kin can request the medals and the awards, usually that's spouse, children, siblings, but sometimes there can be some exceptions made depending if there's no other family available. Most of the awards will be released. We do have some delays for some of the older medals for World War II because they're just not making as many as they used to, and unfortunately, we only have a few of those veterans left with us, which is sad. Worked with many World War II veterans, and it's a privilege and honor to know and work with them. Some awards are also issued by foreign governments, such as the Philippines, the former Republic of Vietnam. Those can't be released by the federal government because they're not issued by the United States. There are some stores out there and private businesses that can sell those at a minimal cost, but fortunately, most of the majority of the medals, if they're issued by the U.S. government, can be provided without charge. Another issue we run into is retired pay or active duty pay. We do reach out to the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. There is one in New York State in Rome, but we generally do most of our inquiries at the DFAS in Indianapolis. They do issues for a survivor benefit plan, retirement pay or taxes. A lot of times from January to March or April, we'll get some inquiries from some veterans or families that need to get a 1099 or something related to their military pay through DFAS, and it's difficult for them to get online to get that. So we try to work with DFAS to get that information sent to us. So very few times we have to reach out to them, but when we do, they usually come through for us. So next slide, please. We also have issues with TRICARE, which is the Defense Health Agency governs TRICARE benefits. That's for mostly active duty or retirees for the military, prescription drug benefits through TRICARE, just general medical benefits. If you do need to reach out to us for that, we would need to send, in addition to our privacy form, a DoD form 2870, which is a HIPAA form. We can complete most of it for you. It's just since it's involving a healthcare issue, TRICARE and Defense Health Agency ask us for that. And then some branches have been asking, not all, but some, if we do contact them on a medical issue for a service person, they also require us to get that form, but they'll let us know if we need to do that. We also get contacted for many different other issues. If you have a big event, someone may want to fly over, or a band, or a static display of military equipment, which can happen. There's also issues where someone didn't get a promotion to rank. They may have a family member who was sick and they're stationed across the country or overseas and want to come to a base that's closer to home. And sadly, we've dealt with several. I know Ed in our office had just dealt with a case like that for emergency leave for someone a family member has passed away. So that happens too. A lot of times for those issues, the Red Cross has been very helpful to this military, and then we can sometimes step in with the Congressman's office. And then we also do reach out to many different agencies, not just the Pentagon, but we do work very closely with the Division of Military and Naval Affairs for the state, which they govern the Air and Army National Guard for New York State, and then the overall National Guard Bureau, which does it on the national level. And then we do get some people that live in the state now that may have done their Guard service in another state. We just had to reach out to the state of Arizona on behalf of a veteran last week on issues like that. So really, it's just we do try to find the right office, and most of the time, I would say for the majority of the time, we're able to find some good, sympathetic people in those agencies to help out. So next slide, please. So that's just a quick, brief overview of what some of the common issues and things we get in from constituents and family members and veterans on what we can do to help issues that arise for the VA and DoD. Certainly for any any issues you might have, or family member or veteran might have them reach out to our offices. You can also reach out to us online. Our privacy form can actually be completed online and signed online too, which has been very helpful, especially if it's just did a case for someone who's in the Army in South Korea a few weeks ago, so they were able to do everything online and get it right to us, so there were no delays. So, but in general, if you're having an issue with a federal agency or you may not know if it's something we can help out or can't help with, it may not know where direction for it, please reach out to one of our offices. We have one pretty close to wherever you might live in our district. It's a pretty large district. We have Lockport, Oswego, and Victor, and good staff there to reach out to. But with that, Michael, I'll send it back to you if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Jason. And yeah, but again, thank you very much for everybody being here. I know Jason here is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all of our caseworks and all of the different things that we do to help veterans with all of these various issues. I'll leave it here. If there are any questions, feel free to use the Q&A function. We'll just keep this open for a minute or whatnot. But just echoing Jason, I know the Congresswoman, she prides herself on having a very well-run office here to make sure that all of our constituents are getting the help that they need with the federal agency, especially our veterans. And that's one thing that we pride ourselves on in this office too. Jason, he's worked for a few members of Congress actually, and been doing this job for quite a bit. And so he is just a massive wealth of knowledge and experience when it comes to helping veterans. And he also is the son of a veteran as well. So that's one of those things that he and I take personally as well, just to make sure that all of our veterans are getting help. Again, feel free to use the Q&A function. I'll leave this open just for one more minute. I do see one question in here. So the PowerPoint will be within the webinar recording. So that will all be on the Congresswoman's official website. It's under her monthly webinar series. So once I get this downloaded and uploaded to the website, then yes, all of the information will be on that video. So I'm not seeing any other questions, but again, feel free to reach out to any of our offices. All of our caseworkers, including myself, are here to answer any of the questions and whatnot. Or if you are from a government office and you're seeing any of your constituencies with who are veterans and having an issue, or just might have some questions, feel free to have them give us a call. We'll happily answer any questions that we're able to. So with that being said, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Jason, for presenting on this. And I hope everybody has a really good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.